Welcome to the deep dive. You send us your sources, we dig in and give you the key takeaways. It's your shortcut to getting informed.
Mm.
So this time, we've got a really interesting YouTube transcript. It's a Bible study by Rev. Lettie Carr called A Man Named Uriah Men of the Bible series.
Right, from WCWC Bible Study.
And what caught our eye was, well, the study was meant to be about King David, but it ended up focusing much more on Uriah, someone often just offends in the background.
Exactly. So our mission here is to really get to know Uriah the Hittite.
Mm.
Who was this man? What was his character like? And why is his story, often just a footnote to David's drama, still so important?
Yeah.
And the source, the study, it does give us that context about David's kingship, too, the background events leading up to Uriah's main story.
Yeah.
I'll touch on that for the full picture for you.
Okay, so the study starts right out with this intention to, really elevate Uriah.
I know.
Rev Carr calls him a good boy of the Bible, even a great man. It feels like a deliberate choice to look at this famous story, but, shift the spotlight away from David's failure and onto Uriah himself.
And what's great is the invitation right at the start. It's basically saying, listen to the story, hear the details, and form your own opinion about Uriah.
Right, not just telling you what to think.
Exactly. It's about discovery.
So the study then points us to 1 Chronicles chapter 11. This chapter lists David's mighty men.
Yeah, these were the guys who were instrumental, who really helped establish his kingdom, who strengthened themselves with him, as the text says.
And boom, verse 41, Uriah the Hittite, he's on the list.
And being on that list, well, it's not trivial. It means something significant.
Like he wasn't just a face in the crowd.
No way. It suggests serious dedication, service to David, service to God, probably fighting right alongside him. These were David's trusted inner circle.
You can kind of picture it, right? Like a really dedicated team at work or maybe in a church group, those people you absolutely rely on.
Exactly. That was Uriah. Which, when you think about it, makes David's later actions, well, it casts them in a really stark light.
It really does. The contrast is huge.
And the study really emphasizes this point. Uriah wasn't just loyal to David. He loved God, served God, fought for God's purposes.
And it makes that point, which I think is quite profound, that sometimes the people just quietly doing the right thing consistently, they don't always get the spotlight.
So true. Their goodness is steady, maybe not flashy, but incredibly valuable.
The study connects this kind of consistent character to being a true disciple, a follower.
Yeah, and it tackles that tough question, too. When bad things happen to someone, we often jump to, well, what did they do wrong?
Right.
But Uriah's story challenges that. He's proof that sometimes really bad things happen to genuinely good people. It's not always about personal failing.
So just to underscore his standing, he's listed again, right, in Samuel 23.
That's right, verse 39. Another mention as one of David's mighty men. His importance is reinforced.
Okay, so we have this established picture. Uriah, loyal, godly, respected. Then the focus shifts to 2 Samuel 11, the part of the story most people know.
The context is key here. It's springtime, the time when kings go out to battle, as the scripture says. But David stays in Jerusalem.
While his army, including Uriah, is out fighting.
Exactly. He's sort of out of place, not where a king would typically be. And that sets the stage.
And then comes the moment. David sees Bathsheba bathing from his roof. He inquires. He finds out she's Uriah's wife.
And the study really stresses the power imbalance here. He's the king. She's the wife of one of his soldiers who's away at war.
It's a massive imbalance.
Undeniable. The study uses pretty direct language. David sent messengers and took her. It suggests she likely had very little choice in the matter.
Which then leads to the pregnancy. And suddenly David has a serious problem he needs to cover up.
Right. So his first move is deception. He calls Uriah back from the front lines.
Under the pretense of wanting a war report.
Yeah, asks how the war is going, how Joab is doing, then tells Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. Basically, go home, relax, be with your wife.
He even sends food, a gift from the king's table, to encourage him. The plan seems simple. Get Uriah to sleep with Bathsheba so everyone assumes the coming child is his.
But the plan completely unravels because of Uriah. His integrity just stops it cold.
He doesn't go home?
Nope. He sleeps at the entrance to the king's palace with all the king's servants.
I mean, think about that. He's come from the battlefield, probably exhausted, dirty. He gets offered the comfort of his own home.
And he refuses. When David questions him the next morning, Uriah's answer is just incredible.
What does he say again? It's powerful.
He says basically, the ark, Israel, Judah, they're all in temporary shelters, in tents. My commander Joab and all my fellow soldiers are camping out in the open fields.
Wow.
So he asks, should I then go to my house to eat and drink and lie with my wife? No way. As surely as you live, I will not do this thing.
The study really unpacks that, doesn't it? His focus is entirely on the collective effort, the shared hardship.
Absolutely. The ark god's presence is in a tent. His brothers in arms are roughing it. He feels it would be fundamentally wrong for him to seek personal comfort. It's about solidarity.
It really hits that idea of denying oneself,
Mhm.
putting the bigger cause, the community, ahead of personal desires.
It does. The study uses an analogy like if your whole family was fighting for survival, you wouldn't just go off and have a feast by yourself.
Right, you stick together. It's a stark contrast to being passive or self-serving, especially in matters of faith or commitment.
Definitely. But David doesn't give up. He's getting desperate now.
So plan B.
Keep Uriah there another day. Then, that evening, David makes him drunk. The thinking must have been, okay, lower his inhibitions, then he'll go home.
But even drunk.
Even drunk, Uriah doesn't go home. He goes back and sleeps with the king's servants again. His discipline holds.
It's astounding, really, that level of self-control, even when intoxicated.
The study links this to that inner strength, that fruit of the Spirit self-control. Our core convictions can run deep.
It makes you pause and think, doesn't it?
Right.
About our own lives, the areas where maybe we lack that discipline, diet, finances, goals.
Uriah's example is quite a challenge there.
So David's cover-up attempts have failed. Twice. And now he resorts to something truly terrible.
Yeah, this is the darkest turn. Absolute betrayal. He writes a letter to Joab, the army commander.
And gives the letter to Uriah himself to deliver.
Uriah carries his own death warrant, completely unaware. The letter instructs Joab to put Uriah right in the fiercest part of the battle.
And then pull the other troops back, leaving him exposed.
Just abandon him. It's ruthless.
And Joab does it. Uriah is killed in battle exactly as David planned.
And the study makes that heartbreaking point. Uriah died, essentially, because he did the right thing. His integrity sealed his fate in David's plot.
It's just tragic.
It brings up those big questions again about righteousness and suffering. The study mentions Job, another righteous man who suffered immensely. It hints at this idea that sometimes there's like a spiritual opposition against those genuinely trying to live godly lives.
But God sees. The story doesn't end with David getting away with it. Nathan the prophet comes.
Right. Nathan confronts David, but cleverly, using that parable about the rich man stealing the poor man's one little lamb.
David gets furious, demands justice for the poor man.
And then Nathan drops the hammer. You are the man.
Chilling.
Absolutely. And God's judgment is pronounced. David is told the sword will never depart from his house because of this. It shows how seriously God viewed this sin.
God defends the righteous. He sees. He repays.
Exactly. And the consequences for David were severe and long-lasting.
But what about Uriah? Does his story just fade out as a victim? The study points out some really significant things later on.
It does. First, in 1 Kings 15.5, there's this assessment of David's life. It says he generally did what was right in God's eyes, except
in the matter of Uriah the Hittite.
that specific exception speaks volumes about how grave that sin was, how much it stood out to God even in the life of someone like David.
It wasn't just swept under the rug.
Not at all. And maybe even more striking is the genealogy of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew.
Matthew chapter 1.
Yes, verse 6. It mentions David becoming the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah.
Wow. Not by Bathsheba, but by the wife of Uriah, even after she was David's wife.
Even then, it's a subtle but powerful detail. It's like God is deliberately preserving Uriah's name, his connection, his identity in that lineage. He wasn't forgotten or erased.
That really lands. God didn't forget Uriah. He honored his memory, even right there in the lineage leading to Jesus.
But it reinforces that message. God sees the wronged. He values integrity. And ultimately, he ensures justice and remembrance.
It's a call to trust God's justice, maybe even while we're called to forgive.
Well put. So the study really concludes by holding up Uriah as this incredible example. Godly living, discipline, unwavering integrity, even when it cost him everything.
So, recapping the deep dive, Uriah emerges not just as a victim, but as a man of profound loyalty, integrity, and self-discipline.
Right. His story, set against David's failings, becomes this powerful testament to character.
And it's a stark reminder for us, isn't it, that sometimes doing the right thing, having that integrity, well, it can lead down difficult paths, unexpected consequences.
But the bigger picture, as the study suggests, is that such faithfulness, such character, is seen, valued, and ultimately honored.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener, to sort of chew on.
Reflect on your own life for a moment. Is there a specific area, maybe big, maybe small, where you could apply Uriah's kind of discipline, his unwavering commitment to what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs something?
Just something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the story of Uriah. We hope it gave you some valuable things to consider.